As the QA coder, I'll simply key my credentials and log in. I'll be taken to my QA coding screen, where my coder assignment has already been completed. In order to proceed forward, simply click on the green circle with the check mark to go into the actual QA coding screen. All the demographic information populates at the very top of the page. You'll notice here in the upper right-hand corner, the coded date and the coder are available. The Scan Pages icon demonstrates the medical record. By clicking on it to open the chart, you'll be able to proceed with your QA process. Simply click on the data service in the right-hand window panel in which you wish to QA. The coder's information will populate on the far left side. It is all read-only. The data service, the provider, and the document type will default in the middle section based on the coder selections. You'll notice that there are several items in red, bold font. This means that the coder populated information. We need to select each of these and review them in order to proceed forward. To conduct QA, you'll use the green circle checkmark, the red X. You can change a diagnosis or add a diagnosis. So in this example, I'm going to validate the diagnosis. In this example, I'm going to remove it. In this one, I'm going to change it. And then I'm going to add a brand new diagnosis. Each of these will track a specific status. I also need to review the error flags that were provided by the coder. If I agree, I can simply leave the error flag intact and select Apply this diagnosis. If I disagree, I can simply deselect it, change it, or add to it accordingly. In this particular environment, it is a validation status project. I am validating or doing QA on the selections previously identified by the coder. In this example, I agree that they should have validated this diagnosis. In this example, I am disagreeing that they should have validated it. This one actually needed to be removed. I'm changing the diagnosis code in this example that should have been validated, and in this one I am adding it. So I need to be sure that I'm selecting the appropriate statuses that are applicable based on what I demonstrate in my QA. In the QA notes, I have the opportunity to include additional QA feedback. You'll notice that the coder previously selected an error flag on the chart level, and I can choose to leave that, or I can deselect it and confirm and update the notes. Upon saving, the right-hand window panel will now update all of the QA information based on what I identified. I'm going to proceed to evaluate the next date of service. In doing so, I realized that the coder entered the incorrect date of service. I have the ability to choose date of service error by selecting the checkbox. In doing that, the date of service becomes an editable field. I can simply key the correct date of service and proceed with conducting my QA. When I save this, you'll notice that the date of service the coder keyed incorrectly has been removed, and the correct date of service has been added as a QA status with the appropriate validation that I selected. I am also able to add a brand new date of service by simply keying the date of service in the fields, selecting the appropriate provider, or changing it by typing here. I select my proper document type, And in the QA response fields, I can simply type the diagnoses that apply with the proper status. I can append any applicable error flags, and I can add my QA notes. When I save the diagnoses, they should then populate here in the proper window. Upon completing the full QA, I simply click Done and identify that I have completed the QA. You do have an option to place the chart on hold for a later time or to escalate it to the next level. If I escalate to the next level, it will remain pending until the manager picks up the chart and assigns it to the subsequent QA auditor. You'll now notice I'm returned to my working queue and the QA has now been completed. And this concludes the QA coding process.